Hello everyone, artist Charles Wolf here. Hope you're having a fantastic day today. Let's get right to it. I'm going to start out here with some liquid white. I'm going to spread it out with a 1/2 inch brush. Nice side-to-side strokes there, making sure I have even coverage. Today, I'm using a very large canvas. This is 24 by 24 inches. It's pretty big, and I don't think I've ever done one quite as big as this one before. Going to switch over here in just a second to some cobalt blue. I'm going to take that right from the tube and put it right onto the canvas here. Just a very dark, deep color, the very top there. And then I'm going to let it interact as I move downwards. So using that 1/2 inch or 1 inch brush can work as well. I'm going to let that work downwards into the liquid white. Now the liquid white is a nice mixing medium. It allows the paint to go farther, but it also acts as a medium and an agent that will lighten up your blue. So as you see as I go along, I'm going to get a lighter and lighter shade of blue as more of that liquid white mixes into it. Now, when I get further down, I'm going to be very careful not to cover up the darker spots that I have above, but I'm going to allow it to become lighter and lighter. I want a nice gradation of this blue, as it's going to be a predominant part of this painting. In fact, the upper 1/3 portion of this sunset is going to be this lighter blue sky. Today, I thought it would be rather fun to do another landscape painting for you. And I'm going to be creating here for you a beautiful sunset painting. Now, another artist that I know by the name of Kim Clay, she has an art blog, and I will put a link to it in the description below, put up a photo challenge very recently and asked those who followed her blog, like myself, to do a painting based on this photograph. It was a lovely, lovely sunset photograph, and I really liked it, and I thought, hey, it would be fun to do a nice painting. And then the day before, I had just purchased both of these large 24 by 24 inch canvases. I got 2 of them. And so I thought, why not use the first one to create this very lovely, very massive sunset painting? I want to point out that I'm going to be breaking up this painting video into 2 parts. Now, I normally don't do that, but because it took me a good 2 hours, I think, to paint this painting, all told, maybe it was 2.5, I needed to definitely cut that down. And of course, I do edit these extensively, but even so, with all the editing and cutting everything down, I could not get it short enough to my liking, so I decided to go with 2 parts. So this is just the first part. This is the first half of the painting. We're getting a lot of the underpainting done today, and all the preliminary stuff, kind of all the darker shadows and things like that. And then we will go back and add in all the highlights and sort of finish off in a shorter video, and I will have that for you. Oh, goodness, probably not next week if you're watching this right when I put it up, because I'll be on vacation, but probably the week after that I will have the second part up for you. Alrighty, moving right along here. I am allowing there to be some variation. I don't want it to be too static, but it does not need to be perfect gradation. It needs to move and have some life to it, sort of these like upper clouds sort of suggested by the lighter areas. I guess I'm thinking of those very high up cirrus clouds. But again, it does not need to be a perfect gradation. It looks like I have the top portion of my canvas, about half of the painting covered, and I'm going to be putting in a horizon line. I'm just trying to figure that out for just a second. Doing a couple more strokes here, and then I'm going to switch over to a horizon line. Here we go, with this nice purple mix. It's made of permanent red, cobalt blue, and titanium white. I'm going to make that as straight as I possibly can. I'm not going to fret too much if it's not perfectly straight, because I can go back and fix it as I go along. But I just need a more or less straight line, straight across there for the horizon line. There was a nice, in the photograph there was a nice light layer of purple clouds right on the horizon, which was perfect because it helped me really delineate that line early on in my painting. So what's going to happen here is there's going to be a bunch of clouds sort of right on the horizon. There's going to be a huge cloud structure reaching up from the middle over to the right-hand side, up into the blue area on the right-hand side. And then I'm going to also have the sun setting right near the horizon on the lower left-hand portion above the horizon line, but below where the blue is currently, right in that left pocket over there will be where the sunset is actually happening. As I paint this line, I'm going to be adding more white to the right-hand side of the line. Because the sun is behind the clouds on the left-hand side, the clouds themselves are going to be very dark in contrast to the brightness and the brilliance of the sunlight. But as they go farther to the right, they're going to be getting away from that heavy, intense light source, and they're going to become lighter. So with that line of thinking going on, I'm going to make sure I add a bit more white, like I said, to the right-hand portion as it sort of becomes fainter and more mellowed and subdued. I may not add it in right away, but over time I'm going to build that up as sort of a principle to this painting. So center and left-hand side, more contrast. As it gets to the right, everything kind of mellows out and chills out, if you will. Just building up the texture here. I should mention that I've switched to a round brush, like a medium-sized round brush. I'm going to start building up this cloud layer here. And I'm just going to make these quick little squiggles. I don't need it to be perfectly covered. I just need to suggest some of the shape for now. Kind of give me some guidelines to work along. And I can change things as I go. I love oil painting. It's very forgiving, as I mentioned in my other videos. And if I make a mistake, it's not a big deal. You can always go back and fix it. Here, I'm just going to be suggesting a few little lines here and there, just kind of marking out roughly where I want things to happen. I'm not obsessing too much of making it match exactly to my picture that I have in front of me. It is close, but it's not going to be stroke for stroke trying to make it look absolutely perfect, because that's not my goal. My goal is to capture the essence of the picture and to capture the brilliance and the mood that I feel from the sunset, rather than being overly realistic or trying to just basically paint a photograph. I don't want to paint a photograph. I want to paint from a photograph, if that makes sense. Going back to the purple mix here, and I'm also grabbed my 1-inch brush. I'm going to thicken up and make that a little bit more present in those wispy lines that I've already added there with the smaller brush. I need to thicken this up and make it more part of the painting, because those clouds are nice and dark. Like I mentioned, they're going to be in stark contrast to the sun behind. And again, I'm using a lighter touch with the clouds on the upper right portion, because they sort of mellow out and get a little bit fainter to the right hand side. I don't know if you can tell yet the perspective, but the cloud, that very large cloud I'm working on right now, is sort of coming towards the viewer over the right hand shoulder. So when I want to translate that to a two-dimensional space like the canvas, that means I'm going to be going up and over to the right. But when we finish the painting, and if I do the light correctly and make it look correct, it's going to be kind of flattened right at the horizon line, and then it starts to bend and come forward towards the viewer. The mixture that I'm using right now is cobalt blue, raw umber, and a touch of white. This is the same mixture that I'm using on the darker portions right there in the middle of that primary cloud. I think I'm going to call it the primary cloud from now on. So when I say primary cloud, I'm referring to the center cloud. So the darker portions of all the clouds, but including the primary cloud, is going to be the cobalt blue and the raw umber. Whenever you start a painting, I always recommend that you pick a color that's in the photograph you're working from, if you're doing it from a photograph, or looking at the landscape in front of you if you're doing it outside, and kind of block in the spaces. It's a good idea to block in the painting, more or less, with an underpainting like I'm doing here, to get the perspective figured out. If you wait till the end to sort of fill everything in, your perspective can get off. Now, I often do paint from back to front, So here I'm starting in the background, that was the blue. Now I'm starting to put in the middle ground, which is the clouds, and then at the very end I'm going to work on the foreground. And that's the order that I always do paintings in. Background first, then middle ground, then foreground. Now why do I do this? Well, because whenever I work on a section, I don't want to have to keep going back and changing things above it. If I'm starting at the top of my canvas, if that's the sky for instance, the furthest thing away from me, that's where I want to begin, because when I start layering things in front of it, if I want to go back and change something in the background, that may mess up my more forward object, my middle ground or my foreground. But getting back to my point, blocking things in is a good idea. I want to point out that I am sort of breaking that rule I was talking about, background first, then middle ground, then foreground, by even putting some paint down right there at the bottom. But I'm just trying to clean that brush off. I don't care what color is down there. I'm going to cover it up anyways. I just need some color to start, and I already had that on the brush. Might as well clean it off. I'm going to grab my round brush again and go back to that purple mix. I'm going to add a bit more red this time to it and really bring up the heat right at the horizon line, kind of dividing that darker blue portion where the water begins from this ocean scene. I think it is. From the photographs, it looked like it was an ocean scene. I want to turn up that heat quite a bit, and I'm going to bring in a lot of red and orange and yellow in just a moment, but we want to get the cool colors down first for contrast. I'm going to take some of that hot purple and put it up at the very top, because some of that area is getting some light hitting it, and I want that to be there as sort of the under portion of my cloud. I'm going to put some lighter portions on top of it, but it's a good base, and I want to make sure that I'm varying the purple so it's not static and the same across. Okay, here's some fun stuff. Grabbing some raw sienna, some burnt sienna, and a touch of permanent red, I'm going to start putting in this beautiful, I don't know what color this is, kind of a burnt orange, beautiful, lovely color. Maybe there's a touch of lemon yellow in there as well. I can't remember top of my head here. I think there's some lemon yellow in there as well. Taking another brush with a little bit of white on it, I'm going to blend that together just a little bit. Again, we want to chill and mellow that out. A little bit of white as it goes to the right hand side, it kind of fades away. Grabbing some of that burnt sienna and a little bit more red, I'm going to bring in some brighter, richer color right here, sort of layering things together. Take my fan brush, and now I grab some lemon yellow and a little bit of the cadmium yellow, and I'm mixing them together. Grabbing my fan brush, I take one corner and put it into the lemon yellow. The other corner will go into the cadmium yellow. I'm going to mix those two colors right there on the canvas before you, really making sure that I shift the lemon yellow to the upper portions and it becomes more of a cadmium yellow in the bottom regions of this section. Moving to the opposite side, I'm going to take my fan brush, add a bit more of the lemon yellow to it, and then start coming in here and touching the tops of these clouds with a little bit of the yellow, kind of mixing it into the blue for a little bit later when I start pulling that yellow upward into the blue. Touch more of the cadmium there. A little bit more of the cadmium here. Now I've sort of lost some of my lemon yellow at the top. That's okay. I will go back and as a higher layer later on, as a highlight layer, I will go ahead and cover some of that cadmium yellow over and put some more of the lemon yellow in its place. Now I have a bit of a green happening here because the yellow is interacting with the blue already there, but that's okay. We'll again cover that over as we go along here. That white circle on the bottom left is going to become the sun. I just haven't filled it in yet. Getting a little bit bolder with the red there. It's almost a permanent red. I'm going to also push that up into the yellow, forming an orange, because there is a layer of orange right above the sun in the photograph. Painting is so much fun. I can't tell you how much I enjoy doing it. It's really a wonderful part of my life to be able to paint, hopefully every week. I don't always get to it every week, but I try. I also have an art blog, impulsiveartistry.blogspot.com, and after you watch this painting video, please head over there and check it out. I have lots of painting materials and information. I also have photography that I like to do, and I have information about that. All kinds of great content there for you. Guest artists appearing all the time, showing off their work. So head over there. That's impulsiveartistry.blogspot.com. Here on the canvas, I have grabbed some liquid white as well as some of that blue and a touch of umber, and I'm going to kind of smear that out. There is a lot of the very, very faint pale blue on the right-hand side, so I'm just filling that in quickly. I'm going to go back and add some more yellow and some orange and make it look better than it is right now, but I just need a base, and liquid white is a great base and a great way of thinning your paint out, especially these oil paints like I'm using here, get them to move. I can't tell you how exhilarating it was to paint on such a large canvas like this. 4 feet area, just such an amazing thing to do. I really, really like it. I definitely plan on doing some more of these. It's a little bit more expensive because I have to buy these canvases, and they are, a little bit more pricey when you buy such large ones. But it is a lot of fun, and so maybe every once in a while I'll make sure I grab a big one because, like I said, I just really enjoyed the process. It was a lot of fun. I've grabbed a stencil brush there, a nice round stencil brush, and I'm taking some of the lemon yellow and mix it with some white to get a kind of a creamy white, and I'm starting to put in these very, very high highlights on these clouds. Very, very wispy, high clouds way up in the stratosphere there. Smoothing out a few spots real quickly, and now I'm going to start bringing in some of this creamy white right here. That lemon yellow needs to come back in full force, like I said before, and I got a little out of hand with the cadmium yellow, so coming back with that creamier yellow is a good idea. In part 2, I'm going to actually be doing a lot of highlighting and a lot of pushing things, but this section right now, I'm just trying to get paint onto the canvas, get things blocked out. That's my main goal with this part. Get things working, get the painting lined out where things are happening, and I can finish it off next time in part 2. Got a little ways to go before we get to that though, about another 10 minutes of painting before I stop this painting video. For these light wispy clouds way up there, I'm doing lots of quick little strokes, very jagged, impromptu, quick, lots of reloading the brush. I want it to be these bursts of color, these bursts of movement. So I'm just putting them in very, very fast, not thinking too much about the individual strokes, just trying to have it sort of impromptu feel to it to give it some nice texture and movement. In the photograph, there's a giant mass of that creamy yellow in the top right-hand portion of the painting. And then it's going to come down along the trailing tendrils of the purple, all the way down like that, meeting to the brighter yellow. That yellow is a dominant factor all along these clouds, and I really wanted to capture that with my brush. Going back here, taking some liquid white and a touch of the Prussian blue, I'm going to start filling in a few spots, connecting things together in just a moment. Still a bit of yellow on that brush as well. Just a touch of lemon yellow, and then I'm going to add more yellow as I go along. Start blending it together. In between, I am cleaning my brush off a little bit, so I'll blend, clean the brush off with a paper towel, and then go back to blending. This right-hand side, we want a nice gradation of the red sort of melting into the yellowy blue, and the yellow more into the blue, and the white is there as well. So we're just trying to connect all the textures together on that right-hand portion. Later, we can come back and add the highlights, but right now we just need a subtle, beautiful gradation. Gonna grab some more of that creamy yellow and put a few more these zigzag strokes straight through it, trying to thicken that up and make it more prevalent, that yellow there. I may go back in a moment if it gets a little bit out of hand and with another brush of blue and white and fix it, but for right now I'm just trying to get the color down. I can always go back and make some adjustments, but for now I just need to get the paint on the canvas. My number one suggestion to people who are starting out painting, get the paint on the canvas first, then worry about making it look right. I mean, you can stare at a section of a painting and think about and visualize, I'm going to make this stroke with this pressure all day long. But until that brush touches the canvas, nothing happens. So the first thing you have to do is put the paint on the canvas. Remember that painting should be always fun. You never want it to feel like work. We never want it to feel overwhelming. We always want to have fun when we're doing this because it should be a relaxing activity, something that we're excited to do and excited to share and show other people what we've created. It's a great outlet for creative ideas and creative endeavors. And so when you're doing this, you should never feel stressed or it's not coming out the way you want. It's okay. You can always go back and fix it later. Just try to do the best you can for right now. And maybe the next painting will turn out even better. Now I've gone through and added some Prussian blue to the clouds, darkening them up so there's more contrast between them and what's going to be the sunset behind. I've also grabbed a little bit more of the creamy yellow and I'm going to blend that downward just a bit more. It was not quite connecting the way I wanted it to. Just highlighting the tops of these clouds for a second. Making some adjustments as I go here. Grabbing some more of the Prussian blue. I'm just going to fix that upper edge there. Yeah, it looks a lot better. Much happier with that. Taking that Prussian blue, I'm going to connect it downward. It's supposed to touch the purple, and it wasn't touching, so there I fixed it. And then I'm going to take some of that blue and thicken up the bottom horizon line there. It's looking good. Looking good. Now I know you can't see my palette. It's off to the side. And I know you can't see the photograph, which is also to the side. But it is coming along, and I have everything blocked in at this point, which is pretty exciting. Taking some more white to the Prussian blue and mixed it together. And then I'm going to bring in a lot of these nice bluey purple tendrils and really push them in the canvas and into the composition. There's just a really neat effect of these long, wispy clouds kind of going in strings, and that's what it looked like in the photograph, and that was really what drew me and made me want to paint this painting, was this upper portion of the sky. It was really beautiful. These long, finger-like tendrils, so very cool. And I think it kind of evokes my last abstract, my coral reef, and then I did coral reef 2. They also had some similar shapes in them. Doing some final blending here before I start to push the yellow on the right hand side. It needs to be a lot more present in the composition. And it needs to be a lot fiercer and dominant. So I'm going to bring in a lot of this yellow on the right hand side and start blending everything together a bit more. I'm still using the 1-inch brush, using a very light touch to blend everything together, very softly, feather touch. Take a dab of the yellow and then bring that up. There we go, nice and creamy. Very lovely. I should mention that all of my paintings are for sale and you can purchase them on my Etsy shop. The address is etsy.com/shop/impulsiveartistry. Again, that's etsy.com/shop/impulsiveartistry. There will be a link in the description below. Taking my 1-inch round brush with a little bit of that red, bring that up as well. And do you see what's happening here? That liquid white is a perfect medium and it helps not only lighten everything up, but it makes the paint blend together very beautifully and smoothly very quickly. It's a nice way of filling in the space rapidly without much effort on my part, which I really like. A few more strokes of the orange, just trying to get some texture here, some contrast, some shape. Now I'm going to reinforce the cloud here with some more of that Prussian blue and a touch of the purple. Looking a lot better there, using some left and right horizontal strokes. I'm also going to put a little bit of that Prussian blue right into the water, reflecting it below. Now it's a little bit overboard, but I'm going to go back later with some highlight colors and lighten the whole water up, and it'll be okay. You can't see the light without the dark, so even though I'm going too heavy-handed here, admittedly, I can go and fix it later on, and it will look correct. You have to have the dark to see the light, and that's a key component to painting. Alrighty, wrapping this up. Just going to fill in a few more of these sections here. Some more of the Prussian blue, some of the purple as well. Trying to even out the bottom portion of the horizon line there. Alright, this is pretty exciting. My first very large painting, halfway through it. It's going pretty well. I'm very happy with the way the yellow is interacting with the blue. Going to work on that a little bit more. Got a lot to do with the sea in the foreground. Got to work on that and finish up with some more highlights for the clouds. Alright, I'll be back with part 2 the week after next. See you all soon and have a fantastic artistic day. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.